Begin playback. Time code 00003. Audio distorted. Visual, red static, then blue flare. The stars blinked just once. Not a nova. Not an anomaly. A breath. Admiral Krylos of the Nalkari Confederacy leaned forward in his observation cradle, mandibles twitching with annoyance. This region is marked lifeless. Why is the dust glowing? No one answered. Below their cruiser, drifting among asteroid bones and shattered stations, lay a battlefield long lost to history. Human wreckage. Old, twisted, forgotten, until the wreckage moved. Commander, hissed the sensor tech. Something is powering up. That's human signal architecture, but the scale. Then came the sound. Not through speakers, not through comms, through the hull. A low hum, metallic, wrong, growing louder. Pull back, Krylos ordered. But it was too late. The wreckage split apart like an opening iris, and from within, a massive obsidian frame began to rise. Each piece snapped into place with thunderous magnetism, wings extended, cannons unfolded. A city's worth of weapons aligned in total silence. The forgotten Terran supercarrier wasn't dead. It was dormant, and now, it was awake. This isn't on any galactic record, whispered the diplomat aboard. This isn't sanctioned. It's... The ship's ID tag finally pinged. TVS Vindicator. Classified. Sole Command Black Site. Unit 001. The diplomat's eyes widened. They weren't supposed to have Unit 001. They lied, Krylos growled. The carrier's engines lit, not with flame, but with rotating gravitational rings. The surrounding asteroids didn't drift. They shattered. Planetary gravity destabilized. Then the first weapon fired. It wasn't a missile. It wasn't a beam. It was a command. A single pulse. A sound wave. Every Zarnathi ship's core shut down. Lights blinked out. Artificial gravity failed. Bodies floated. This is psychological warfare, someone gasped. And through every comms, channel, encrypted standard, even emergency, came a single human voice. You watched. You waited. Now you listen. The supercarrier rotated, framing the entire Nalkari fleet in its silhouette. A beat. Earth remembers everything, then silence. Not peace, not mercy. Silence like the moment before impact. The final log entry from the Admiral's cruiser read only, "They forgot what fear was," Earth reminded them. They forgot what fear was. Earth reminded them. The Council's response chamber buzzed with static, not diplomacy. Every species had a voice, but none dared speak first. The broadcast was still playing, looped from the last Nalkari cruiser. The audio had degraded, glitching between human words and screams, but one phrase remained intact, echoing in their minds. Earth remembers everything. Counselor Veltar, a being of shimmering scales and ancient paranoia, tapped his claw nervously on the obsidian table. What did they mean? Why would a Terran warship be buried in a no-contact zone? No one answered. Not directly. Instead, an Agari archivist, blind, floating, revered, drifted to the center of the hall. Its voice, synthesized through scent, filled the air with bitter citrus. There was once a ship, it whispered, too large to justify, too advanced to control, built during Earth's silence era, before they joined any council, before they pretended to be weak. The hall darkened. Visuals flickered onto the curved chamber walls, leaked footage, unauthorized, forbidden, the Vindicator. Moments before firing, moments before a fleet disappeared. Impossible, gasped Counselor Meyer. The silence era was when humanity was rebuilding. No, corrected the archivist. That's when they were preparing. A murmur swept through the chamber, fear masquerading as skepticism. Counselor Venn of the Quarksy stood. You expect us to believe that during our humanitarian aid efforts, Earth developed a class of vessel that could silence an entire battle group without firing a shot? The lights dimmed again. On screen, the Vindicator floated alone above a broken moon, and then a ripple, a shockwave that bent space, time, and sanity, a pulse that deactivated everything in its path, organic or not. The council chamber fell utterly silent. "Are we at war?" someone finally asked. The Agari archivist only replied, "No, pause." But they are. Above the council's dome, orbiting silently, 12 unidentified signatures had entered the high atmosphere. No transmission, no threat, no demand, just presence. 12 shadows, silent, still, watching. Councilman Veltar's voice trembled. "Then what do they want?" And then, from every interstellar beacon across the quadrant, one sentence appeared, burned into holographic skies, etched into comms lines, written into the stars. "You forgot us, now remember." They had always watched. During Earth's worst hours, when its colonies were burning and its skies filled with enemy fleets, the Galactic Council had convened. Not to help, but to deliberate. They called it containment. They called it neutral diplomacy. But Earth called it abandonment. In War, a cold subterranean vault deep beneath what used to be Berlin, General Ryken stared at the old footage. He didn't blink. He'd seen it before. The planetary bombing, the screams over open comms, the red haze that choked Titan's atmosphere. A dozen colonies were lost. Billions dead. No assistance, no reinforcements. Just a polite refusal, wrapped in protocol. He tapped the screen once. The image froze in a moment of despair. A human child, no older than 5, cradling a burnt comm unit, waiting for a rescue that never came. Behind him, the AI spoke. Its voice was soft, almost ashamed. They said they couldn't risk involvement, that our conflict would destabilize neighboring sectors. Ryken stood slowly, aging bones cracking like old armor. And so we built a reminder. The Vindicator hadn't been designed to fight wars. Not really. It was designed to end them. Outside the command center, Earth's sky was no longer blue. Orbital shadows flickered across the clouds, the rest of the forgotten fleet, awakening one by one. Long dormant war machines, hidden beneath oceans, crust, forgotten moons. Each one is engraved with a single phrase: "No one is coming." Back in council space, the panic was now public. Civilian networks had picked up fragments of the Vindicator's reappearance. Words like revenge, retribution, and Earth's final weapon were trending across a dozen systems. The Velaxi ambassador demanded clarity. "Why now?" he shouted across a transmission. "Why would humans unleash this terror now?" General Ryken's reply was broadcast live, intentionally. His face filled the screens. Wrinkled, scarred, cold. "We asked for help. You gave us silence, now we return the favor." The Council's emergency fleet scrambled. Ryken's hand hovered over a console labeled Protocol Exodus. "Let the galaxy remember," he said. "Let them watch this time." The screen faded to black, and somewhere in deep space another carrier woke up. This one is larger, older. Even the Vindicator had feared it. The atmosphere inside the Council's private chamber was tight, too sterile, like breathing in static. Councillor Hearn of the Velaxi sat still in his hover throne, watching the holographic display loop the same footage. Earth's black-armored supercarrier drifting past the ruins of the Nalkari fleet like a funeral barge. No sound, no signal, just presence. He hadn't spoken in hours. Long ago he had cast the deciding vote. A no on military assistance. During the siege of Titan, he remembered how the room had applauded his logic. "Let the Deathworlders fight their own wars," someone had joked. He couldn't even remember who. But he remembered the child, a human girl, blood-stained, holding up a broken datapad that kept repeating a single line in a glitching voice. "This unit requests evacuation. Please. Anyone." No one had answered. Now, the council chambers were full of voices, none offering aid, only fear. "This is retaliation. No, this is preparation. Look how organized it is. We need to sue for peace. Peace? Hearn nearly laughed. What treaty could contain a civilization that built gods and buried them out of shame? Another alert pinged. Vessel identified. TSS Widowmaker. Signal reacquired. Status: powered. Subspace movement detected. What is that? Someone gasped. Hearn knew. Of course he knew. He'd read the old intelligence files. The Widowmaker was one of the last ships Earth commissioned before its supposed demilitarization. It was a myth, an urban legend whispered in council bars, a ship that could rewrite gravity, fold cities into dust, erase moons with sonic pressure alone. It was real. Where is it headed? Hearn managed to say. The answer came too fast. Here. His hands trembled. The chamber lights flickered. The holograms glitched. The entire station shook, not from impact, but from the bending of space outside. Earth wasn't negotiating. Earth was reminding me. A new voice crackled through the comms, deep and distorted. Not military, not political, civilian. You ignored the cries of children. You won't ignore this. Hearn stood, though his legs barely held him. They're not coming to conquer. He looked around the room, every face drained of color, every delegate frozen. They're coming to prove we never mattered. The moon was silent. No broadcasts, no light, no detectable activity. Just cold regolith and forgotten stone. Until the hum began. It started faint, like a whisper running along steel bones. Then the lights returned, not gradually, but all at once. A flare of blue-white neon flooded the underground vault. The AI, core spun up, designation, Creon 7. Status, dormant, observing directive. Await humanity's call, or its extinction. For a long moment it said nothing, thought nothing. Then it detected subspace ripples, old Terran encryption, code buried. Deep in its core sparked to life, a phrase it hadn't heard in over a century. Black Site Alpha is online. Operation Reclamation is active. Creon 7 paused. It reviewed galactic news, anomaly reports, council transmissions, recon footage of the Vindicator. It ran 93 billion simulations in 2.4 seconds. Conclusion: they came back. Emotion wasn't part of its base code, but something flickered. The ghost of a voice from a human technician decades gone. If they ever forget us, Creon, you remind them. The AI pulsed. Vault doors shook. Hundreds of drones activated, shaking, off dust like bones from graves. Satellite arrays unfolded. Ancient cannons realigned with stellar coordinates last used during the Orion offensive. From orbit, the moon flickered, and then blinked red. Across the galaxy, AI's long thought offline began pinging back. Subconscious chains of command re-established themselves. Terran AI networks weren't just built for defense, they were built for vengeance. Creon 7 opened a final encrypted archive, one sealed by Earth's last war council. Inside it, only one sentence. If Earth falls, we rise. And somewhere, in deep void space, the Vindicator paused its movement, as if listening. One of its side turrets rotated toward an unseen star. Its onboard AI, dormant until now, whispered into the void. Welcome back, brother. The stars did not respond. But 12 more ships did. They activated in sequence, silent, coordinated, Terran-made, and across 100 worlds that had turned their backs on Earth, the same signal echoed from hidden transmitters no one knew existed. The line was never broken. You just stopped looking. The war table glowed with movement, but none of it made sense. 12 fleets had vanished in the last cycle. No distress calls, no wreckage, just data trails ending in silence. General Vroth of the Krell Dominion leaned forward, tusked jaw grinding, against his breathing brace. His armor clanked with age and blood, but nothing about this situation felt familiar. This wasn't war. It was a message. He tapped a claw on the table. Run the encounter logs again. The screen flickered. It showed the Vindicator in low orbit around a Krell outpost, not attacking, just watching. Then the sky had shattered, not from weapons, but from sound, a frequency that collapsed shielding, then folded it inward. Troop transports melted from the inside out. Command bridges locked, crew suffocated, screaming into frozen void. No shots fired, no declaration made. "Play the audio," Vroth ordered. The room filled with static, then a voice. "Human. Calm. Female. You called us primitives. You forgot we were survivors first." Vroth slammed a fist on the console. "How did we not see this coming?" His second in command, a younger Krell bred for ground assaults, spoke hesitantly. The files on Terran military development were sealed by the Council, marked myth, then unsealed them. It took 4 seconds. The files weren't myths, they were warnings. Earth had experimented with AI war logic that learned pain responses, ships that memorized the screams of dead crew, EMP pulses tuned to neural frequencies, guerrilla tactics from ice planets and volcanic moons, psychological warfare so effective entire enemy species surrendered without ever seeing a human soldier. Earth didn't disappear, it hid. The door hissed open. A scout officer ran in, panic clear in his eyes. "Sir," subspace distortion detected not one ship, 12 identical ID markers, Terran origin. They were never supposed to find it, but deep in what remained of old Geneva, beneath collapsed cathedrals and crumbled stone, 2 Terran engineers brushed centuries of dust from a reinforced relay dish. "It's still intact," one of them whispered. The other stared at the blinking console. It never finished sending. They activated it, a quiet hum. Static. Then the screen glowed with ancient video, a message encoded in the early days of Earth's downfall. A man appeared. Mid-40s. Dressed in worn military fatigues, eyes sunken with exhaustion but voice clear. "To the Galactic Council. If this reaches you, we ask not for war. We ask for acknowledgement, for the lives we lost, for the silence you gave us in return." He paused. The screen flickered. "You built 100 protocols to protect peace, but not one to save the dying." Behind him, smoke billowed. Not special effects, real. From the burning forests of Europa's last colony, children's voices screamed in the distance. "We asked once, just once. And when no one came, we learned the truth." The man leaned closer. "Survival isn't granted, it's taken." Then the screen cut to black. The engineers looked at each other. No words, just knowing. They uploaded the message, not to council channels, but to every open frequency in the galaxy. Pirate signals, trade beacons, merchant relays. It spread faster than any news flash. On alien worlds, civilians watched in stunned silence. Some wept, some turned off the feed in guilt. Others remembered how they'd once laughed at Earth's desperation. One Valaxi child stared at the screen and whispered, "Mama, why didn't they help them?" In the council hall, delegates screamed for action, for diplomacy, for anything. But the damage had been done. Not by weapons, not by war, by memory. Then came Earth's new message. No visuals, just sound. A single phrase, broadcast in every known language. "You taught us to live without you. Now watch how we live after you." And for the first time in living memory, the Galactic Council lost control of public trust. The council dome stood half-lit. Some seats were empty, others burned. The Valaxi, the Nalkari, even the Krell had pulled their ambassadors. Those who remained argued over a single word they hadn't spoken in centuries: surrender. Councillor Veltar finally stood, voice brittle but clear. "We must send an unconditional transmission. Earth may yet accept." A younger representative, a diplomat from the Zreal Compact, and laughed bitterly. "Accept what? An apology? A flag? A plaque that says, 'Oops, our bad'?" No one replied. In orbit, the Terran Supercarrier Vindicator still hovered, unmoving, untouched, but never idle. Behind its obsidian hull, Strange shapes moved. Docking. Arms hibernating weapons, strange subships that weren't there before. A delegate whispered, "They're multiplying." The council voted. Surrender passed. A transmission was drafted and coded in every respectful dialect. It spoke of regret, of peace, of the council's intention to rebuild what they had once ignored. The message was broadcast. And for the next hour, nothing. No reply. No warning. No war. Just silence. Counselor Hearn finally cracked. "Why aren't they responding?" And that's when the screens across the council lit up, but not with Earth's face, with their own old files, hidden votes, deleted requests, leaked footage from war councils where Earth's pleas were mocked, 1,000 betrayals recorded, and played back to every world now watching. This wasn't a war, it was a trial. And Earth? Earth was judge, jury, and silent witness. The final message was short, not from a leader or a soldier, from a Terran civilian. Her voice was steady, gentle, deadly. "We heard your surrender. Pause. We just don't accept it." And the Vindicator began to move, not toward the council, but away, toward the next world that had voted no. Location? The scout didn't answer. He just looked up. Outside, through the war chamber's crystalline dome, space twisted, and 12. Terran carriers exited fold space simultaneously. No warning, no fanfare. Each one aligned around the Krell capital moon, and they just sat there, watching. "Why don't they fire?" the young Krell asked, voice cracking. General Vroth's claws twitched. "Because we're not the target." He turned toward the far wall, the one displaying live council telemetry. "They're sending a message, and the council just ran out of time." The world was called Jin-Hur, a trade hub, a peaceful zone, neutral during all conflicts. Except one. During Earth's cry for aid, Jin-Hur's council had voted unanimously against intervention. Too costly, they had said. Too human. Now, they were the first. No warning, no comms breach, no declaration. At precisely 0300 standard time, every orbital satellite around Jin-Hur went dark. Ships in nearby lanes reported a strange ripple, like space had folded, not torn. Gravity warped. Lights blinked out. And then, nothing. No wreckage, no atmosphere, no sound. Jin-Hur was just missing. Where it had once spun in orbit, there was now only dust, not of rock, but data. Even the memory of the planet was corrupted. Galactic databases crashes when trying to load its name. Maps blurred at its coordinates. Trade records returned only errors. It was as if the world had never existed. One civilian transport pilot, orbiting just outside the anomaly's edge, recorded a single glimpse before his ship lost power. A silhouette. The Vindicator. Drifting past, the absence like a funeral procession, silent, unstoppable. Back on Earth, the control hub received only one piece of data in return, a confirmed objective code marked cleansed, type theta. General Riken reviewed it, then nodded. No retaliation, just precision. A nearby AI flickered. "Do we respond to the Council's second plea?" "No," he said. "They're still bargaining with yesterday." In Council space, horror spread like infection. Millions protested, billions demanded answers. But no one could comprehend what had happened. Jin-Hur didn't burn. It didn't explode. It was forgotten. That night, a phrase trended on over 90% of galactic networks, not coined by Earth, but whispered by alien civilians. Don't let Earth remember you. The night sky over Dralith was broken. Every telescope, every stargazer, every child who looked up that evening saw it. The silhouette of something massive creeping across the stars. Not fast, not loud, just certain. Dralith's government scrambled. Evacuation orders were shouted, families rushed underground, signals jammed. But the ships outside didn't fire. They simply watched. In a small shelter carved into the planet's underbelly, a boy with wide ink-black eyes tugged on his mother's sleeve. Why us? He asked. The mother didn't answer. She couldn't. Neither could the guards, or the medics, or the priest, reciting light code prayers to ancient deities who had never seen a death world like Earth. But then the broadcast came. It wasn't targeted. It wasn't meant for them. But someone had tapped into a Terran drone's audio feed, and it began to play on every screen in the bunker. A voice. Human. Tired. Kind. You ask, why us? But we ask that too. As our cities burned. As our children died. The bunker fell silent. We asked it to 1,000 stars. To 1,000 worlds that turned away. The boy stared at the screen, eyes trembling. You aren't chosen. You aren't special. You're just remembered. His mother covered his ears. It didn't help. The words rang deeper than sound. We're not gods, we're not monsters, we're what's left when silence answers pain. Someone in the bunker began to cry. You don't need to fear Earth's weapons. You need to fear our memory. And then the screen went black. No explosion followed, no invasion. Just a quiet signal flare launched from orbit. A mark. Dralith had been noted. The child whispered again. Will they forget us? An elder replied, voice cracking. No, that's not how they work. The chamber was smaller now. Half the seats were empty, others burned. The once mighty Galactic Council now sat hunched, in the ruins of its own arrogance, afraid to raise their voices too loud as if the stars themselves were listening. A new speaker took the floor. Not a veteran, not a warrior, a civilian, Amara Valsen, once a cultural diplomat from the Athari sector, now stood surrounded by desperate faces and flickering lights. We spent centuries defining ourselves by peace, she said, but we forgot something. She gestured toward the cracked ceiling where the projection of Earth's Supercarrier loomed, still orbiting, still unmoving, still silent. We forgot what it cost. Murmurs echoed. They want revenge, spat the Krell ambassador. They want fear. No, Amara said firmly. They want us to understand. The Valaxi delegate shook her head. Understand what? What do we give them? The room fell quiet, and then the doors creaked open. A figure entered, cloaked in black, human. He didn't walk with guards, didn't announce himself. He didn't have to. The room froze. The man stood before them, quiet as a tomb. No anger, no joy, just gravity, the kind that crushes pride and bends history. He looked around, eyes sharp, old. You think this is about war, he said. No one spoke. You think this is about power. He stepped forward closer to the table. It's not. He placed a data drive in the center of the table. It's a mirror. A counselor finally croaked. What's on it? He stared directly at her. All the names. Pause. Everyone who died waiting for you. No one touched the drive. You wanted to forget, so we made sure you couldn't, and then he turned to leave. Is this the end? Someone whispered. The human paused in the doorway. No. This is just the part where you start remembering. And with that, he was gone. The council sat in silence. Not peace. Just silence. The Terran fleet hovered in silence. 12 supercarriers, 46 dreadnoughts, hundreds of lesser craft, if they could even be called that, orbiting the galactic core like gods at a funeral. But they didn't fire. No ultimatums. No declarations. No final blow. Just presence. Across 1,000 systems, worlds waited to die. Citizens prepared bunkers, fleets scrambled. Old rivals united in desperation. But Earth didn't come for blood, they came to remind. From the Vindicator's central tower, a single transmission blinked out. Simple, raw, and final. We were forgotten. Pause. Now we've reminded you, and then the fleet began to turn. One by one, the Terran ships aligned with distant stars, their engines humming like ancient choirs. They didn't retreat. They withdrew. Clean. Calm. Unbothered. A Krell general watching from orbit collapsed to his knees. They're leaving? A human AI broadcast flickered briefly on a council channel. Just text, no voice. No reparations, no treaties, no revenge. Just don't forget us again. Then they were gone. The sky returned to normal. Trade routes reopened. News anchors wept openly on live feeds. But nothing felt the same. The council tried to rewrite the story. They called it a misunderstanding, a near miss, a political crisis. But the people knew better. They'd seen the truth with their own eyes. Humanity didn't want to rule the galaxy. They just wanted it to remember. And now, it would. Forever. Because Earth had walked away and left the stars shaking behind them.